This is part 2 of this 4-part series on the heroes of Beowulf. So, let's get into it. Roll VT. Oh, we're back. We're back for part 2. Part 2, we're going to talk about Beowulf's father, Ecgðeow. So, let's do a little bit of housekeeping on Ecgðeow. Again, I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing these words right. I'm pretty sure it's Ecgðeow. When ECH together, it's more like an edge. And then Theo, Ecgðeow. Oh dear me, descendant of Wægmund, brother of Weohstan, and that, again, 2 names we'll come across in the next part with one of the later names on this list. So if I get the Chambers book, because the Chambers book, which is very handy, has a genealogy, has a bunch of family trees on it. So when I look at this, I can see that Ecgðeow and Weohstan are brothers, and they have a Wægmund is one of their ancestors, the Weomundings, I think they are, their dynasty is called, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but Ecgðeow, let's just get to it, because we're right here. Deceased father, a renowned Geatish warrior, went to Hrothgar for help clearing a war guild. We mentioned this in the first part. Beowulf was a small boy at the time. Heorot's sister, Yrsa. Now, Heorot is the king of the Geats at this point, and Yrsa is Hrothgar's sister. Again, I will show you a picture of this family tree because, you know, don't want to confuse people too much with all this jumping back and forth. So, although to be fair, pretty sure, because Heorot is Beowulf's uncle, but we don't actually, no one is saying whether Yrsa is in fact his mother, but she kind of has to be because Heorot only had one sister, Yrsa. So, we think it is. Come on. Anyway, the war guild, honours and responsibilities, his actions required Hrothgar's intervention, blah, 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 blah. That's what we get into now. So the war guild. So war guild is effectively a man price, right? So the Wolfling's blood feud involved Ecgðeow is a crucial backstory element to Beowulf as it establishes Beowulf's family history and his connection to the Danish court, particularly King Hrothgar. Here's what we know about the whole thing in the poem. Ecgðeow, Beowulf's father, killed a man named Hrotholav? For fuck's sake, these bloody names. Hrotholav. Hrotholav. Of the Wolfling dynasty, of the Wolfling tribe, sorry. So he killed him, and usually a man price, you can pay it off, or you can have someone come and kill you, I guess. So it's death to death, or you can literally pay it off. Usually people will pay this shit off. Now, this act initiated a blood feud in Germanic heroic societies. A killing demands recompense either through further bloodshed, retaliation, or through the monetary compensation known as a war guild. If war guild wasn't paid or accepted, the feud would escalate. Ecgðeow's kin were either unable or unwilling to pay the war guild, or perhaps the Wolflings refused to accept it, forcing Ecgðeow into exile. And his exile took him straight to the Danes and Hrothgar. This would have been when Hrothgar was much, much younger, obviously. Ecgðeow seeks refuge. Ecgðeow flees across the sea to eventually arrive at the land of the Danes, seeking refuge from their king. So that's Hrothgar, who was a relatively young king at the time, intervened into the conflict. It's important to understand as well that Hrothgar's brother, Heorot, was king, and then he died. It would have been passed to Helga, but then he died young. It should have then passed to Helga's son, Hrothulf, but Hrothulf was so young that Hrothgar said, I'll take the seat and I'll hand it over to Hrothulf when he's ready. But he never handed it over. And again, this is more Rob Cracky stuff, so we'll get to that at a later date. So yeah, Hrothgar kind of took the throne, which is something that Beowulf doesn't do, even though he has the opportunity to do this. He doesn't do it. Someone mentioned, I was watching something yesterday about Lord of the Rings and how symmetrical it is. Actually, I was reading this actually. What's it called? Tolkien, Author of the Century by Tom Shippey, and he talks about the symmetry within that. And this is that kind of thing. But Beowulf doesn't take it. Again, this is something I talk about in the previous video, the last video about the dragon. So where we intervened in the conflict. So Hrothgar, who was a relatively young king at the time, intervened in the conflict. He paid the Wergild to the Wolfling tribe on Ecgðeow's behalf. By doing so, Hrothgar settled the feud and prevented it from spiraling further, thus earning Ecgðeow's loyalty and gratitude. Debt of gratitude. His act generosity and justice created a strong bond between Ecgðeow and Hrothgar. Ecgðeow swore oaths of fealty and friendship to Hrothgar. This act of kindness is the reason Hrothgar knew and respected Beowulf's father. This is why he says, I am Beowulf, son of Ecgðeow.
I am Beowulf, son of Ecgðeow.
If you've seen the TV show that came out, I think it was ITV, like 5-6 years ago, it's fucking terrible. So don't watch it. Don't waste your time with it. I've watched it and I will do a video on it soon. But oh my god, it's so bad. So fucking terrible. I'm gonna spoil it for you. Hrothgar dies before the show even begins. Hrothgar is dead.
Beowulf, Hrothgar's dead.
And apparently Beowulf grew up there with Hrothgar's son.
Kill him.
Who was a twat. And it's just... Fuck me, that show's terrible. Beowulf sails to Heorot to offer help against Grendel. Hrothgar immediately recognises Beowulf's lineage and recalls his past kindness to Ecgðeow. The past debts kind of motivate Hrothgar, readily accepts Beowulf's offer of grant him an audience, yada 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 yada. We've read this poem, you've read all that stuff. This showcases Hrothgar as a wise and generous king, even in his youth. Okay, capable of diplomatic solutions and preventing further bloodshed. Again, this is something that happens again later on in the poem, but we don't hear about it until Beowulf goes back to Helac, and basically recounts what happened when he was in Denmark. And he mentions that in order to stop a blood feud, Hrothgar is going to marry off his daughter Friawaru to Ingeld. And again, this is something we'll talk about in the Ladies of Beowulf video. If you've read the poem, you know how that goes, or how it's likely to go, because it's all in there. And we'll talk about it in the next video. Well, not the next video, but when I get to the fucking female video. The female video? Reinforces the role of illustrates the code of honor. The incident exemplifies the importance of the blood feuds, Wergild, and oaths and loyalty to the Germanic heroic code, comitatus. Comitatus. Is it comitatus or comitatus? It sounds Latin. This demonstrates how intertribal relations were governed and how a powerful king could exert influence and maintain peace. Well, that's the thing. It's like your entire culture. It's like you can kill someone, and as long as if you're rich, you can kill whoever you want because you can just pay them off. I imagine that people would get kind of bored of that after a while. Beowulf's reputation. So, although Beowulf himself wasn't involved in the feud, being too young or not yet born, I'm pretty sure he was probably a kid. The story of his father's encounter with Hrothgar. Hrothgar's resolution contributes to Beowulf's own standing reputation when he arrives in Denmark. He comes with a respected heritage. In essence, the Wolfling feud narrative provides crucial context to the relationship between the Geats, Beowulf's people, and the Danes, Hrothgar's people, and lays the groundwork for Beowulf's heroic mission. I'm going to leave it there. So that was Ecgðeow and Hrothgar, two of the father figures, two of Beowulf's essentially father figures, given that Hrothgar actually kind of like wants to take Beowulf as a son in place of his own sons, which I think Wealhtheow, his wife, kind of tries to get him to not do that. Anyway, Beowulf doesn't take the bait and goes home to Yeatland. So yes, I'm going to turn this off and get to the next couple of videos. Give me 1 sec. Anyway, the YouTube algorithm thinks you'll like either one of these two videos. Happy Wednesdays. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed. Like the video if you like the video, and I'll see you on Friday for part 3 of this 4-part series.